friends, in today's video I'm going to be making the outer skirt to the Cinderella ball gown. There are 2 layers to this skirt, a circle skirt and a gathered skirt. We will need 5 colors of organza: white, iridescent white, teal, lilac, and blue. Your shade of blue will be determined by which version of the dress you are making. I am going for the color edited version, so I went for a really deep royal blue. Your organza should be very light and sheer, yet still thick enough to make the colors visible. I ordered fabric swatches and gathered and layered them until I had a desired opacity and watercolor effect. I also used matching thread, and these spools are around 200 yards each, so you really don't need much for each layer. Next we have these lovely crystals. I bought about 5,000, and I think these are just meant for nail art, but I've worked with them many times and they've worked perfectly for me and never disappointed. They even come in many different sizes and colors, and I love how they twinkle in the light. First, I divided my fabric so that I had 12 yards of white organza, 6 yards of iridescent, and 20 yards of teal, lilac, and blue. I made 2 white circle skirts and sewed in some gussets cut from the extra fabric. I don't have exact measurements, but I just cut a few and sewed them between the side seams of the circle skirts. Alright, so I've got my first 3 layers on the dress form already, so that they look pretty nice. I love the iridescent layer, it's so sparkly. The first 2 white layers, I probably should mention, I have not yet trimmed off the excess fabric yet because I just finished stitching the waistband. What is with me having to sneeze every time I get on camera? Anyway, I finished these top stitches with a zigzag just to keep the raw edges contained, and then because I had cut out these extra gussets, I had to gather the back part, and I just gathered the back panel, and I didn't gather the whole thing because I think I felt like my dress needed a little bit more bulk in the back, which is why I gathered it in the back. And for some reason, the gussets of the iridescent layer are short. I don't know why they're a lot shorter, but I've pleated. Well, I think the reason they're a lot shorter is because I was cutting them out of the scrap fabrics, and this layer has a lot of stretch to it, and I think it's just the way the fabric stretches that makes them a little bit shorter, so it's kind of stretched up. Because I can stretch this out to the bottom of the skirt, but yeah, so I just pleated this over so that the 2 circle skirts join up and kind of cover up that extra short bit. But yeah, I can take the gussets out, but I don't really want to. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm stubborn and I just want to use all the fabric that I purchased, so who knows. But other than that, it looks really good. So I think next I'm just gonna chop off the extra bits and finish those edges. So that's what I did, and I finished the white skirts with a serger, and I finished the iridescent layer with a tight zigzag. I'm turning the page. In the end, you should have 2 white layers and 1 iridescent layer. Then I stay stitched those 3 layers together and cut out my waistband from some blue cotton and closed it with a hook and eye closure. So sometimes I just lie on my bed and look back at the beautiful work I do, and then looks like somebody's ready to have their dinner. Okay, I was trying to figure out how to explain this in my voiceover, and for the life of me, I could not figure out how to explain it without showing you a picture. So, we're going to do the gathered skirt, and to do this, we need to cut out this general shape, and mine is about 90 inches on the bottom and a yard on the top, and this is not to scale, but we know that the bottom circumference of the ball gown is going to be so big, and our waistlines we want to keep really small. So to do that, we are going to just chop off these little triangle sections from our fabric just chop them off. And that's pretty much all I did. I folded up the fabric so that it was 90 inches wide. I also left the skirt to be as long as my 60-inch fabric width, so if I needed the extra length I could have it. And then I proceeded to cut out my panels. I planned to have 8 panels initially, but then I was a yard short of teal fabric, so I just did 7. Then I sewed my panels together with their corresponding thread. Skip a few pages. Once I got to my blue layer, I added my crystals. This process was very time consuming and it took me about 4 days to finish. And I made sure to leave about 4 inches off the top and bottom without crystals because we will later lose those bits of fabric when we gather it into the waistband and when we trim the excess off the bottom. I used tacky glue and it was watered down a bit, and I placed each crystal on my fabric one by one, and I used the smallest crystals at the top, placing them close together, and the largest crystals at the bottom, making them more spaced out. Once that's done, give yourself a pat on the back and gather all your paneled skirts together. When gathering, make at least 2 gathering stitches should one of them break. Mine did, so be very careful when gathering. Alright, so I've just started working on the waistband, and these are the 2 pieces I have. Well, actually there's 4 pieces because they're double layered. But this is the front, and this is the back, and I actually cut these out of a mock-up fabric, and I kept the mock-up fabric because I decided I liked the color and that it would work well with the dress. You'll notice that these waistband pieces have a point, and the reason for this is we need the waistband to basically be the bottom half of the bodice, because we're doing that because we don't want to have all this bulk sitting at the waist. As you can see, because there's so much fabric gathered into this skirt, it's going to get pretty fluffy up here, so we don't want to have all this bulk sitting at the waist, which is why this waistband is acting as a yoke. So the fabric is going to be down here and not up here at the waist. Another very important detail to keeping this hourglass silhouette is you want to have the waistband slanted. So when I mocked this up, I mocked it up while wearing my corset so I would get the idea of the shape of the waistband, because silhouette is really important when it comes to the waistband as well, because once again we're reducing bulk and keeping the silhouette that beautiful hourglass illusion. So I pinned those pieces together and stitched along the top, pressing it flat, and then I sewed only one of the side seams and I pressed that as well. Before you attach the waistband, make sure your skirt is gathered how you like. I put most of my gathers in the back so that it would keep that elliptical bustle silhouette. Then pin your gathers to the front of the waistband. Try to keep those pleats really tiny, and then sew the top of the waistband. And cut away the extra fabric. Next, I hand sewed the back of the waistband down to the inside of the skirt. Alright, now I'm going to put my closure into my dress. So I have my skirt here, and I am doing a side closure because I wanted to keep the front and back points nice and flat. So I have left open one of my side seams and my skirt's starting to slip off the table, so I'll have to be careful. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to fold this in and hand sew that so that it contains this raw edge here. And then The little gap I cut into the skirt, it's not very big. It's probably like 3 or 4 inches, but I have just bound that with a very tight zigzag stitch, and I have a gather. I made sure to place a gather right here at the end, so when this overlaps with the other end, it hides this edge very neatly. And so after I fold that in and sew it, I'm going to put some hook and eyes on here to close it, and then we should be done. Wait, no, we're not done. We still have to finish the bottom of the skirt, but we should be done with the closures. Okay, so here is the closure so far. I think it's pretty good, and it does a good job of hiding you can't really even tell where the seam is that I opened, but I think it hides it nicely. And I really like how it turned out with this spot. The last thing I need to do is to just hem the skirt. I have not yet done that because I wanted to make sure that it would fit over all the layers, and you know, when you gather it into the waistband, you're also going to lose that chunk that sits here. So I wanted to make sure I got all of that done before I hemmed it, just to make sure that it had the right size. Then I proceeded to give my dress a little haircut. I left the skirt to be a little bit longer than the petticoat because that's what it seems to do in the movie. And then I finished the edges with a tight zigzag, once again with the corresponding colors. And that was that. Well, that's all we have for today. I am so glad that you could join me, and I really enjoyed making this skirt. I think it turned out really, really beautiful. And I can't wait to see you in next week's video when I will be making the bodice, and then the dress should be complete, and then there will be a video for accessories and a video for the reveal. So I cannot wait to see you in those videos, and thank you so much for joining me. You guys are so nice to me and so supportive, and I just hope you have a wonderful day today, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!
This was not a good idea. The dress is too big for me to... Sorry.
So I pinned those pieces together and I stitched along the top and pressing... What am I reading? Okay.